How's everybody doing? Adventure AZ here. I'm Gabriel. We are going to be installing the ASD into the transmission for the Axial Gilamon. I've already kind of got a jump start on it, but we're going to obviously start by removing the transmission, removing the drive shafts. That's been known to be a pain in the butt with the Loctite from the factory, but once you get those off, we pop these 4 screws out. We will carefully remove this. Be mindful of the bearings. We're going to set that aside. Now this, we're going to go ahead and pull this out. There's a bearing inside there for that side. So we're going to pull this out and set this aside. This we're going to leave in there for now. After that, you'd have these 3 screws pulled right here. 1, 2, 3. I have them already pulled, set aside. Try to speed up this video here. Oh, just give her a nice little wiggle. And that should come out. We got this little rubber piece. Okay, we're going to be installing this ASD into the transmission. We want front and rear dig, so we don't need that plug anymore. Now you're left with this. So we're going to be removing this gear. Now some of this might try to come out with it. That's fine. This gear is going to be set aside with that, because that's how we get it to transfer to the rear drive shaft. Now, let's go ahead and pull this assembly out. I have already taken the time to put some grease in there. There's not really any grease in there from the factory. I do suggest it's a very open point if you're doing this to get in there and grease it. So once we got transmission to this point, we'll set that aside. Alright, right here, want to be mindful of which side is which. This side is squared for the gear for the rear, and this side is the front drive shaft front drive shaft output. So that's why we got that pinhole right there. We want to keep that bearing on there. See, there's a bearing that goes inside. We want to keep everything together. This bearing, we're going to pull this out. This is the lockout for that ASD. Okay. And once we get there, I do suggest adding some lube. Okay. It's going to make these things function properly. You know, get a little lube in there, a little lube around there. Not too crazy, but we do want some grease. It's going to make everything actuate properly inside the hole. Okay, nothing too crazy, just a little bit. We want to get it on here. I like to use a paintbrush. That way we can get it on there without getting it too crazy. We don't want it in excess. Moderation. So, once we have that, keep in mind there's a short side and a longer side. That longer side, you want to go towards this gear right here. Okay, so we're going to slide that on. Oh yeah. Now we're going to put this bearing back. Okay. And let's go ahead and key that in there for now. So that's the front side. Now the back side, our bearing stayed in there. We're going to take this lockout out, set it aside. And we're going to take our grease. We're going to grease it up a little bit. Not too crazy, just a little bit to help it slide around. Alright. I'll grease this little guy up a little bit. Alright. Now keep in mind, remember the orientation. We don't want that short side. Oop, it's slippery. We don't want that short side to go into the hub. Okay? We want the long side to go into this gear hub right here. Okay? So we want that short side on the outside. Okay? And then we put that into our bearing and we slide that in. Okay. We're going to go ahead and set this aside for now because there's more to that. Let's start setting up the ASD function. I've already taken the liberty to put these clips on. You're going to need these clips. The kit doesn't come with it. So unless you have some 2.5E clips, you will need some of these. That's the part number AXA1393. That'll get you these little clips right here. So got those already clipped on, and from there, this is another thing you want to keep in mind with the orientation of these dogs, these little slides. There's a short side and a longer side. Now keep in mind, the spring, whichever spring you choose, will fit over each side, but it only orientates one way, and that is with the longer side that way. But first, before we do this, we're going to lube up this side, the side with the threads. Side with the threads is the side you're going to want to assemble first because that's going to hold itself together. And keep in mind, just light lube. It's going to make everything function very, very smoothly. Okay? A lot of people don't like to add grease to, these dig parts. Believe it or not, with this setup, it's going to operate very, very smoothly. So we got that. Not really going to be able to grease inside there. We'll get it in there. Alright, little wipe up, clean it up. Okay, from here you choose the springs that you would like. I don't necessarily suggest jumping if you're wanting the stiffer springs, jumping into the yellow, which is going to be the stiffer in the spring pack. There's going to be red, yellow, and green. Red being the softest, green being the medium, and yellow being the stiffest. I do think that the medium, with it being greased up, is going to function just fine. The red just isn't enough. And the yellow, I think, is a bit too much. You're going to be eating up servos. Once we are to this point, though, you want to assemble, like I said, the threaded side first. And keep in mind, we put the short side over there with the spring. We're going to take our shock shaft tool. And we're going to go ahead and thread this on. Oh. Woo! We're about to forget the most important part, guys. These little plastic pieces that come with the kit. Okay. These, muy importante. Okay. Very important. That needs to go on first. That's like the seat for the spring over here, as well as it's a seat in the housing. Ooh, everything's greasy. All right. get this threaded on, and we get the other side set up. This thing is about bottomed out. And about right there, it's bottomed out. Okay. We're done with those. Alright, we got that set up. Let's get these ready. Get a little bit of grease on that. Okay. Not too crazy. That's why I like using a brush. Just lightly put it on. Alright, we'll just be alright with that. And then keeping in mind the orientation of the dog that goes with the longer sleeve towards the E-clip. Clean up the excess grease off the end. Now this side isn't going to hold itself together, but this side will hold itself together. We're just going to assemble this and set it to the side. Keep in mind we want that little plastic piece. Alright, we're going to set this to the side. Oh, we had this just come apart. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get this in there. So that stops doing that. These, next step, they're going to have 3 prongs. Okay, let me see. 1, 2, 3. They're going to be like that. Okay, now, before we do that, a little bit of grease. Set that to the side. We're going to take our transmission housing. Okay, now that's how that's going to sit. We want that open portion that does not have a little pin hanging out, a notch. We want that to the top of the transmission. So, and it keys in, and it'll key into this side of the transmission as well to hold that dig function in place. Okay, so we got it keyed into this little notch here. Let's see if I can get a better view. The bottom notch, and then there's going to be a notch right there, and this notch is going to be on the other side of the housing. So, let's go ahead and lube up this one and get that in. We're going to slide these on. Doesn't matter which side for these. Oop. See, we're going to have a little issue right here. We'll remove this one. We need to put that on like so. Which I'm... Yep, okay. Let me get that back in there. Alright. Now, make sure to line up and lock in. Oh, sorry guys. Got the camera mounted on my chest. I was paying attention more to this. Oy. So now, the trick is getting everything in there. Gears, sliding it around, gotta slide it back. Alright. Yeah, and you'll feel them lock into place. They got a nice place to lock into. Alright. Ooh, just stay there. Let's see if we can use this housing to keep it there. Alright. From here, we're going to take this that we got set up earlier. We're going to drop those dogs down into those slots. Okay. And then these plastic bushings or spring seats, whatever you want to call them, they have a notch specifically in the housing for them to sit in. Okay. So once you have them sitting in that notch, it'll be riding right there. Okay. Oh, we're just, all right, make sure everything's pushed in good. Once you make sure everything is good, we'll take this housing, push it on there very nicely. All right, take one of our screws. Keep in mind, you want to kind of keep the rear of the transmission up. We don't want this shaft will come sliding out. We don't want this shaft to come sliding out. So for now, get the middle one in. All right, and just to save you guys the headache for the video, we'll just leave that one in there. That'll hold that nice and firm. Okay. Let's go ahead and get that gear we set aside. Let's get that back on there. And the other gear for our rear drive shaft output. Let's get that back set into the bearing nicely. Alright, those lockouts, you can save those. You can use them again, whatever the case may be. The other springs. Alright, get this back plate on. All right. And that, folks, is your front and rear ASD dig. And very smooth function. All right, there you go, folks. ASD in the transmission of the Axial Gilamon.